This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Some listeners may find the content distressing, as episodes may include discussions of violence, human trafficking, and other forms of abuse, including emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, and physical. In many cases, names have been changed to protect those involved. Please note that the statements and opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect my own. Hi, Warriors. Welcome to Beyond the Statistics, formerly 1 in 3. I'm your host, Ingrid. Some stories leave a lasting mark on your heart long after the conversation ends. Danielle's is one of them. In this episode, Danielle shares her journey as a sexual assault survivor, a journey marked by profound trauma, extraordinary resilience, and the courage to keep moving forward when everything could have stopped her. She opens up about what happened, the years that followed, and how she transformed one of the darkest moments of her life into a mission to advocate for survivors and create change. This is Danielle's story. Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to Beyond the Statistics.
Thank you for having me.
I am very, very, very excited to get into what we're about to talk about. But before we do, could you just share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Danielle Pyle, and I am from Franklin, Tennessee. And I am just a normal gal with, a little fluffy dog that I'm obsessed with and is my whole world. I am a survivor. I'm an advocate. And this has become my new passion and my new world. So I'm happy to be here.
And I'm glad this is your passion because you are a force to be reckoned with in this. What kind of dog do you have?
He's a schnoodle, so he's half schnauzer, half poodle, and his
Oh
name
my
is
goodness.
Walt. And he is not here because he would interrupt this entire thing. So he's
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But he's the cutest.
I have 3 dogs. I don't know if any of them, I'm sure some of them have voiced a little bit of nonsense on some of these episodes, but yeah, they're in their room. That's a lot of personality though.
Oh, he is one of a kind. Yeah.
Okay. I guess we're not here to talk about dogs, but you and I had met in Nashville just a few weeks ago, or maybe I guess about a month ago.
Yeah.
Going on about a month ago. And you have an honestly incredible story. So I won't leave you hanging, but if you want to go ahead and just start talking about what happened and let us know what you did with it.
Sure. So, uh, where to start? To backdate my story, I was sexually assaulted in April of 2021. And throughout my story, the timeline is so important to pay attention to. My assault was something I never saw coming. It was someone that I didn't know. And ultimately, my case fell through the cracks at the police department. And so, as I'm going through that, the timeline is something to really pay attention to. So, one night I went out with some friends from my neighborhood. It was one of their birthday. And so she had a bunch of people from all different places of her life come together to hang out. And we ended up in Midtown in Nashville. And it had been a fun night. I wasn't really drinking. I don't really drink a lot, period. I sure had my days in college, but as I've grown older,
Yeah,
I'm a little
we've
more
all learned.
responsible. Yeah, I'm a little more responsible these days. And I was driving everybody. Like I said, we ended up in Midtown. This guy was there. I briefly was introduced to him. We may have talked for about 30 seconds over rival colleges, nothing super deep. And at some point it was time to come home. We live in West Nashville, so I drove some people back to our neighborhood. And this guy lives in Brentwood, which is about 25 minutes south of downtown. And I'm west. So instead of him deciding to go back to his house in south of Nashville, he decides to come west and come to our neighborhood. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it because I just thought like maybe they're continuing the party at one of their houses, no big deal. And I found myself at my neighbor's house, just kind of wrapping up the evening. I think I went to the bathroom and I was like, okay, it's like I realized it was way too late and it was time to go home. So I just mentioned I'm going home for the night, and this guy said, "Oh, I'll walk you home." And I didn't think anything of it. We're raised as Southern women to accept chivalry. We hope it's not dead. And so I don't even think I thought twice about it, right? Yeah, even though now that I think about it, we're just two doors down, and it was a short walk, but nonetheless, he walks me home. I open my front door, and I remember coming inside, him saying something about like he liked the decor of my house. And then I essentially black out. Like, I don't remember really what happened between him saying that and then I literally felt like I came to, like I regained consciousness in the middle of my assault. And
God.
I remember just being like, this can't be real life. And also feeling, I felt really drunk all of a sudden. And, I'm in my bedroom in my house. And this is not a small man. I mean, this is an ex NFL player. He was, I think he's 6'6", 300 something pounds. I mean,
Whoa.
he's a large man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, not to be too graphic, but he was behind me. And so in that moment, I'm thinking there's no, like, I am not in a position to fight back. I'm also not in the position to fight this 6'5", 300 something pound man either.
Right. Like even if you saw him coming, he's
Nothing you
huge.
could do. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, nothing I could do. And in that moment, I think everything was telling me to just survive what was happening. I remember I had on my Apple Watch at the time and I was trying to dial my neighbor, and I kept hitting my watch and it wouldn't call, but I was trying to text. And nothing, I was just trying to send SOS. That's all I could try to get out, but it wouldn't, like I'm in the middle of this. It's not making sense. And he says, what are you doing? Or something to that effect. It's still all a little fuzzy, but I remember most of it. And I said, "Oh, nothing, just trying to take my watch off." And so I just took it off and like threw it. And this concludes. He stands up. I get up, and he's acting like this was no big deal. Like, he's very nonchalant about the whole thing. And I'm internally broken, freaking out about what just happened. And I stand up and I go to grab my clothes, and his phone is laying face up on my dresser and the camera's open.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, Did did you just record that? And he said, "No, no, 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 no. Like I just pulled my phone up out of my pocket and it landed like that." And I remember going, "Are you sure? Like, just tell me." And he was like, "No, no, no, no. I would never do that." And I just got him out of the house as fast as I could. I mean, it was the most hurried, whatever you need to know. Like, he asked for my phone number. I gave it to him. I mean, this man knows where I live. I just wanted him out of the house. I remember locking my door, coming back upstairs, and just like sobbing on the bed. Like, what just happened? And then I'm playing everything through my mind quickly of like, did I give him some sort of signal that that's what I wanted? Or did, did he think I was attracted to him? All these thoughts just roll through your head. And I remember calling my best friend, who obviously didn't pick up. It was like 1:30 in the morning. And I just left him a sobbing voicemail of like, I need you to call me back. I need you to call me back. And I remember just getting in the shower and just, I mean, it was an ice cold shower, but I didn't care. Like, I didn't have the strength to turn the lever any harder. I mean, I just got in, I sat down and I sobbed. And I remember just sitting in my bed, sort of rocking back and forth, just like trying to self soothe a little bit until I could go to sleep. And still playing the question of like, did he think that I was trying to have sex with? I mean, still playing that whole like, is this my fault?
Yeah.
Right. And I start to remember pieces. So I remember at some point he asked me if I'm drunk. And I remember, I don't know about you, but like when I'm drunk and somebody asks me if I'm drunk, I'm always like, no, 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 I'm not
Right.
drunk. Um, but I remember saying like, I mean, I'm drunk, but I'm not that drunk, but I'm a little drunk. And then I was like, so I know this isn't my fault. You know, the next day, my friend calls me back and he's like rushes over and, you know, I tell him the whole thing. And he said, you know, this isn't your fault. And I said, I don't know. I don't know that it isn't my fault. And he said, thank goodness he's a like licensed psychologist. He was like, this is not your fault. And now it is your turn to decide what you want to do. And I said, I just got to think about it. I don't want to tell anybody. I was so ashamed. I didn't even want to tell my friends that I was with the night before. And so I just sat on it. And I remember, you know, I had to wake up the next day, dress up, and go to a friend's 40th birthday party. And I mean, I was a shell of a human at that point. Like, I remember someone being like, you're not yourself. Like, what's wrong? And I was like, just tired. And I got in and out of there as fast as I could. And Monday came, and I remember just going through the motions. And then I think it was Tuesday, I woke up and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't, this was not me. This was not my decision. This is so messed up. And I told a friend that was with me that night, and she said, what do you want to do? And I just said, I think I need to call the cops. And so I called the cops. They came to my house. Important to note for me that they sent 3 large male cops to my house to take my statement. And I try to be gentle with sort of how I critique law enforcement,
Mhm.
because I am very thankful for them and I respect them a lot. But there's a lot about trauma informed care that they just don't know about. They're not trained on. It's not part of the academy training. And I know it just depends like who's on call that day and what shift they have. And however, eh, that should have not happened.
No,
Like,
and they knew why you were asking them to come.
yeah, like I called the non-emergency line. I was very calm, which I usually get very calm in a crisis. But I was like, you know, I want to report a sexual assault. Can you send officers to my house? I said this was the day before yesterday. I'm not in any danger, but I do want to make a formal police report. And so they sent the guys to my house. I remember giving them my whole statement. They pretty much asked me to tell it probably 4 or 5 times. They walk through my house. They come upstairs. They say, you know, do you have the clothes that you were wearing? Have you washed them? And I said, no, they're in my laundry hamper. And so I bagged those for them. And I said, oh, by the way, he left a condom in my trash can. And the police officer was like, I could see his mind working, which now I'm just so annoyed with because I know what he was thinking. And he said, his condom is in your trash can? And I said, yeah. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I just left it there until you came. And he said, but you know who your assailant was? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, we're not going to worry about it. Just like a red flag.
What?
I just can't even, I just,
But it's evidence, right?
it is evidence. It had his DNA on it.
Yeah.
All this man has to say is, I wasn't there, I didn't do this.
It wasn't me. Yeah.
It wasn't me. Granted, he walked into my house with the Ring doorbell, and, friends end up saying that he did try to walk me home and whatever. But I was just like, God, this feels wrong. Like, I almost took it and put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer as we were leaving because I just knew in my head that this was weird that they didn't take it. And they said, well, do you want to go do a rape kit? And I mean, it kind of put me in, like, stopped me in my tracks going, oh, this is getting really real. And I said, yeah, I think I do. And they said, well, we'll take you. So an officer drove me to the Sexual Assault Center's SAFE clinic. And it's a sexual assault forensic exam, but they call it the SAFE clinic. And never heard of the Sexual Assault Center until I had to know about it. And I get there. I mean, you think about all these things as you're on your way over there, like, God, I wish I could call my mom, or, I was recently divorced, and I just kept thinking, like, I just need to call him and tell him where I am or something like that. And I will say the officer that ended up driving me there on the way said, I just want you to know what you're doing is very brave. And I commend you for what you're about to go through. And I didn't know what he meant, but then, I get there, and the clinic nurse is like, all right, we need you to, undress. We've got to take pictures, and, we want to swab for STDs and give you some medicine just in case. I mean, it is a very invasive time. They sent the actual detective over, who was so gracious and gentle, and I could tell he had done this for a while and was very much on the side of the victim. I didn't feel ever like he was questioning if I was telling the truth or not, which quickly became my reality of, like, people thinking I just made this up. And he questioned me for a little bit, and he said, I'm going to need, the videos of him coming into your house. I'm going to need your friends' numbers. I'm going to have to, do my part to investigate this. And I said, well, I have his phone number if you want it. And he took it. He said, okay, I'm going to go do my investigation. It should take 3 or 4 days. And then I want to meet with you down at my office in a couple of days to hear more about what I discovered. I said, okay. About a week later, I go to his office, and he said, so I talked to all your friends. They kind of verified just the sequence of events. And I called this guy, and I told him why I was calling him. And he quickly said, that was consensual. That was consensual. Like, we had consensual sex. And, I think the detective could see my face. I was, like, getting really angry. Like, I just immediately had this, like, rage. And I said, you know what? I swear he recorded this whole thing. And he said, well, it's interesting that you said that. And I said, why? And he said he did. He audio recorded the entire event.
Did he tell them that?
And I said, what? And he said, he told me that he recorded the entire thing on audio, and that he would come down here, play it for me, and that his attorney had told him to do that. That it was okay to share it. And I looked at this guy, and I was like, that's gotta be illegal. Like, not, I have no consent in my own assault, like, twice.
Right.
And the detective was like, unfortunately, we're a one party consent state when it comes to audio recordings. And it doesn't really matter. Like, he gave the one party consent to the recording, and there's no video attached to it whatsoever. But that's what he brought in. And I was like, okay, we're going to war. Like, I'm gearing up to, like, I mean, my friends know me. Like, when I say I'm big mad, like, they're like, somebody watch out. Like, something's going down.
I'm going to take note.
Yeah. And I just looked at him and I said, absolutely not. Like, there's no way. And I looked at him and I said, did you just say that his attorney told him to come hand this to you? And he said, yeah. I think someone in his career has probably coached him to get consent via audio. And I just looked at him and I said, you know how messed up that is? And he said,
So
yeah. And I said,
he's getting coached how to get away with this.
yeah, I mean, he's a professional football player,
God.
right? Like, I can imagine this is the however many times he's done it. I'm not the first, and I guarantee I won't be the last. Just in general, just in professional sports, period. Like, that experience of realizing that a coach, a teammate, an attorney, an agent, someone in his life told him he needed to be really careful and get consent recorded at some point. And so that's what he was doing when he asked me if I was drunk.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there's like I made them play it for me about 2 years ago because I was convinced that I told him to stop during this. And I did at one point, can't really hear it, but things very clearly shift in the audio recording where it's very obvious what's happening. And that was him getting my consent, was saying, are you drunk? Are you comfortable?
How?
And then it happened. And like, it's mind blowing to me that that is a behavior that is taught.
That there, because how many, oh my gosh, my mind is reeling right now with college ball, it probably starts in freaking high school, college, professional, like you said, not just football.
And look, at the same time, I have a brother. I have kids with boys, and I'm all about protecting yourself and making sure you get consent. Obviously, that's the number one thing I think we need to be talking about. But I would never in a million years think to tell someone you should record what happens.
No.
I would say if you're in a situation where someone has been drinking, don't even think about it.
That's actually, I just had, my boys are middle school aged, so I just had a sex talk with him. And most of the talk revolved around consent. And I said, no means no, obviously. Drunk or drinking means no. Drugs mean no. Unconscious means no. Yes, and then no means no. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I was
exactly
hammering
that.
home.
That's exactly that. Like, yes can turn into a no, and then it has to stop.
Exactly.
And the fact that this, like, I cannot still get over it. It makes me want to just like, I've wanted to start a really large campaign in professional sports about consent, about respecting sexual partners, whether they're your girlfriend or someone you met in a club, your spouse. Like, there's so much to take away from this that needs to be reversed. in these men's mind. And quite frankly, it needs to be taught by other men.
Completely agree. I
Like
completely
I
agree.
can say it till I'm blue in the face, but they're like, it's not gonna
Yeah,
work.
they're going to
But
dismiss you.
yeah, so this whole thing happens. This investigation wraps up. It probably takes about a month total for him to get everything together. And he called me at the beginning of June and said, all right, I've put your case together. I'm going to send it to the DA's office. They have to review everything. You'll probably get a call from them. And then they'll decide whether they want to prosecute. And I said, decide?
Right.
And he was like, yeah, they actually sort of have the power to decide if they want to press criminal charges. And I said, well, but I want to press charges. Like, that's the whole reason I'm here.
Well, right, because they ask you, right? Do you want to press charges? The
And I
answer
am
is
like,
yes.
every charge you can think of, lay it on this man. And so he's, again, sexual assault is in April of 21. This happens in June of 21. I pretty much was ghosted by MMPD, the Nashville District Attorney's Office, and I never heard anything from either office until June of the following year of 2022.
So you were sitting for a full year waiting to hear
Yeah.
and nothing.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, there were times when I was like, I wonder where they are in this process, but it's like, oh, well, they'll contact me. It's the police. Like, they've got a million other cases to work and the DA's office is busy, but they're going to get back to me, never thinking or even really knowing that I could have picked up the phone at any time and called. But again, not my fault. Like,
No,
that's not on me.
no.
And so he calls me in June and he said, Miss Pyle, I'm so sorry. You're I went on vacation for a little while, and I knew he was taking like a couple months off in the middle of this because he had warned me about that. But he said, your file, I think, got misplaced and lost like on a desk, and we're just now getting to call you to tell you what the DA's office wants to do. And I said, you realize it's been over a year? And he said, yeah, and I'm really sorry to tell you that the district attorney's office decided they're not going to move forward with charges. And I said, absolutely not. And he said, I'm even sorrier to tell you that we did get this information back in September.
What?
Yeah. So sent to the DA's office in June. DA made their ruling in September. I didn't find out until the following June, which is 14 months after my assault.
That is so unacceptable. So it sat at the police department lost it like when it came back?
Yeah, I guess it just
Oh
sat
my
there and
gosh.
no one picked up the phone. And I said, this is unbelievable. Like, surely I have an option here. Because, like, this guy's not going to get away with this. Absolutely not. Like, if I've learned anything in this life, it is that, the bad guys are supposed to go away and be punished for their crimes, right?
Mhm.
And he said, well, you could always sue him in civil court for damages. And I was like, yeah, right on. What do I need to do? And he's like, well, and he pauses. You could tell he was speaking and then just took a pause and said, now that I think about it, I think the statute on that was a year from the date of the assault.
What?
And I said, repeat that for me. And he said it again. And I said, so you're telling me I have 0 options for this man to pay for what he did to me? 0. Because you guys took too long and somebody else decides they don't want to do the hard work. And he said, I'm so sorry. And I just said, I got it. Like, I was like shaking. I was mad. I was at work. Um, yeah, I was so mad. I I took his phone call from a conference room at work, and as he tells me this, like, I just hung up, and I just remember like my hands are shaking, and I'm sweating. I'm like super super angry, and then remind myself like, oh yeah, you got to hold it all together because you're the on the senior leadership team for this office, and you got to walk back out of this door and pretend that your day is just as normal as it. Like, my thing when I get to work, my motto was like, the moment you hit the office, your personal life goes away, and we are professionals.
Right.
And I preach that hard, and so to have to like pull myself together and then walk out of a conference room and pretend that everything is cool for the rest of the day was one of the hardest moments in this experience.
I can't imagine the massive disappointment, the anger. Why is that not something that they disclose right away when they know that you want to press criminal charges? Why isn't that something that they say there's also civil in case this doesn't like that should just be something they disclose?
Girlfriend, I could not be. I'm so glad you asked that question. They're supposed to.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, what?
Yeah. So when your case goes to the district attorney's office, you are supposed to get assigned a victim advocate. So the district attorney's office should have had what they call a victim advocate in their office, which I don't think I don't think they are, you know, they're not an attorney, but there's someone on their staff that is there to be the liaison between the DA's office and the victim. And they're supposed to be the ones that keep you updated, that really lay out your options and tell you where you are in the process. Never got a phone call, never got an email. Apparently, they're supposed to write you a letter saying that they're not going to move forward with charges. I've never gotten a written letter from the DA's office. I've never, to this day, other than me questioning our district attorney in some large rooms with a lot of people, I've never talked to the DA's office with this specific DA, like our actual TA.
So both places dropped the ball then.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about this.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I always, what I got really frustrated with, well, my gosh, like, and I say this with humility, but like, I'm well educated, I'm well resourced. I worked at a public and government relations firm that dealt with the legislature and MMPD and the city every single day. And I didn't know this was the way things went. I also didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to know. And I, I just, how is someone who is already maybe being questioned by the police of telling the truth or not, which happens more than we want to admit,
Right.
who is from a low income family or lives in a highly populated area of poverty and their low economic like just so many barriers to actually understanding the legal processes that we have. And so I always think like, well, if I couldn't figure it out, then how is someone who doesn't have the resources and the family and the friends around them, how are they going to know? And then I just was in a whole new state of rage, and at the same time I felt like I had to accept what it was. I still didn't want to tell my parents. I think the only people that knew what had happened were my friend that I called, my friend that I was with that night. And unfortunately, like, I remember leaving the day I met with the detective and found out that he had recorded it. I had to run an errand after to drop something off to my ex-husband. And we were together for 8 years, and he knows me better than anyone, probably still to this day. But he said, "What's wrong with you?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Nothing. It's just like, I'm just having a bad day." And he said, "What's wrong with you?" And then I just sobbed and was like, "This is what happened." And then I could immediately tell, like, it was a very amicable split, but that protection from him was very much still there.
Mm.
Like, I remember, like, the anger in his voice at what had happened. And I'll never forget that, because I know, as long as I live, like, should something terrible happen, I know I can pick up the phone and call him. But, you know, he was still my only safe space in this moment. And um, it just meant a lot. But I still felt, and he was, "You got to tell your dad. You know, your dad's gonna kill him." And I said, "Quite frankly, you're exactly right, and that's why I haven't told my dad. Like, my dad lives here. This man lives. I think I've Googled it before. They live less than 10 miles apart."
Oh my gosh.
And I do really think that if he ever found out who it was, this something would happen to this person, which, like, he, in my opinion, deserves it, but it would cost me my dad, and I'm not willing to do that. So, um, yeah, I just learned to live with it, and it'd be part of my story. And just, I remember I immediately told my therapist. We were very close, and I've been seeing him for a few years, and I remember telling him, and him really helping me process what had happened. About a year, that was June. I started dating a guy in September, and in February, late January, he ended up taking his own life. And I remember thinking, like, life is too short. He was actually, about 18 months before I met him, I had this other boyfriend that I just adored, and it was a COVID romance. And, I just thought he was the cutest ever. And he had been clean and sober for 7 years. And during the pandemic, his mental health just took a turn, and he overdosed and passed away.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so it was like I had, you know, really this culmination of really shitty things happening back to
Yeah.
back. Like, I had a miscarriage, I got divorced, I fall in love with this guy, he accidentally overdoses because it was laced with something. I got to pick myself up off the floor from January of that happening. April, this assault happens. I meet someone new. They ended up taking their own life in January of 22. It's just like the hits just like kept on coming.
That's a
And there was a
lot.
time after all of that, like, after this um this boyfriend had taken his own life, that I think it was a point where I was really like, I'm not allowed to be by myself. And I wasn't. Like, my friends, after he passed, um, were on shifts, like babysitting shifts. It got really dark for a lot of reasons, but I think the one thing that made me the most angry about everything else was that I had no control over it. And I had no control over what the assault was, but I was just so angry that I should have had the power to hold this person accountable. Like,
Yeah.
that should be my right.
Yeah. I agree completely.
And it was just completely stolen. I mean, it's just, I went away, shout out to on-site workshops in West Tennessee, because they quite frankly saved my life and turned it around. And um but when I came back, I just thought, okay, like, we're just going to heal from all of the bullshit, and we're gonna just focus on being positive and happy, and we're just gonna keep doing life. And about, it was 2022, summer of 22, and I can't remember exactly it was, but it was right around the time, like, Me Too had already happened, but there was a verdict about Harvey Weinstein that had come out, that he was either charges were dropped or he was found not guilty of charges. And I just remember reading that, like, I think I was on Twitter or Instagram or something, and just feeling super defeated as a general victim of this type of crime. Like, thinking about all the people all over the world, men, women, boys, girls, who have been assaulted, who never get closure and peace from a conviction. Because for me, I knew that if I got the conviction, that would help close my grief circle. Like, I would finally feel like, the world was making it right in a way. And I had a friend that worked at the sexual assault center. She started a little after my assault happened, but I remember taking her to lunch and saying, I never told you at the time, but I'm going to tell you now what happened to me 2 years ago. And I just want to praise the sexual assault center and the Safe Clinic for helping me get through it. And she said, what can I do? And I said, I just want to talk about it. Like, this is not okay. This whole Harvey Weinstein thing has me worked up. And she said, you know what? Why don't we do baby steps? Like, it's a big thing to put your story out there. And I said, I'll be honest, I haven't told my parents. And she was like, okay, step one, maybe you should tell your parents. Right. And so I remember, like, driving home one day and being like, okay, like, today's the day I'm going to tell my mom what happened. And so I told my mom what happened. There was without a shadow of a doubt, she was like, unacceptable. And then it turned into like, oh my gosh, I wish you would have told me. But at the same time, it was like, oh, this is so horrible. Like, I hope you know this wasn't your fault. And she even said, and I get it, they're of a different generation, but she even said, like, even if you had said yes, Danielle, and then you said no, this should have been the end of it. And I just remember thinking, okay, she really gets this. Like, it's not something I want to belabor with my mom and go into detail with, but, like, I feel supported, and that's all I could have asked for. Now, she wasn't thrilled that I was going to go share my story on public radio, but I knew I had to do it, and so she was supportive. Telling my dad was a whole different story. That was harder. That took a lot of patience on my part, because he didn't comprehend it at first. And my dad and I are extremely close. I mean, very, very close. And it took me a moment for me to go, oh, I don't know if he believes me. Oh. And it wasn't like you lied about this. Like, it wasn't, he just didn't get it. I don't think at first.
He probably didn't want to believe it.
And I think it's that. My dad is the most protective, loving, caring dad. I could not ask for a better dad. So don't misunderstand me when I am telling this, but I don't think he was a part of a generation that talked about this, that maybe he didn't want to admit after I tried to school him on some things like, like, Dad, even if I said yes and then I said no, like, this is still rape. And he was like, well, surely you had to have, like, and I think it's because he didn't want to believe it, right? He was going, well, surely you had to have given him like a signal that you wanted to have sex. And I'm like, it's not, that's not what this is.
It's almost like it's easier to accept that you had some part of it, that it wasn't a complete loss of control on your end.
Yeah,
That, ugh, I think especially as a dad to a daughter who they just want to protect you, no matter how old you are.
absolutely. And like my last 6 years of my life at the point of telling him this was absolute disaster. I'm trying to be really good at not swear on this podcast.
Oh, do it. I mean, there is some. There's some here, I'll start. There's some massive shit we talk about here. So
Yeah.
it is fine.
But it took him a second. I think especially because the last 6 years of my life to that point was absolute shit show and was really devastating, and he had to witness a lot of like breakage within me, quite frankly. And I just think it was one more thing to add to the pile, and that was the one thing like I don't think he ever saw coming and didn't want to ever see coming.
Right.
And so we just had to have some serious conversations. It wasn't long, didn't take long, but I said, look, I'm going to go tell the story. And, both my parents didn't really want me to. And I said, I love both of you. I respect the hell out of both of you, but this isn't your story to tell. It's mine. So I'm going to, like, I've already made up my mind. And they were like, well, when are you doing this? And I was like, tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow, I'm going on NPR's.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, they were like, well, where are you? Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm getting on NPR, like the WPLN, This is Nashville or Today in Nashville or whatever. And I said, quite frankly, I don't think either of you should listen to it. But I just, on the off chance that one of your friends hears it, I'm just telling you, it's out there.
Oh my gosh.
And so I went, I was there to tell my story. I did a whole podcast. I just said my first name at the time because it was really my first test of talking about it. And so I did about, I want to say like 30 minutes ish of telling my story. And unbeknownst to me and unbeknownst to the girl behind me, I did my set of questions. And then the brand new head of sex crimes for the DA's office had to go after me.
Whoa.
And they asked her every single detail about how this happened.
Oh my gosh. So she had obviously she had no prep, and now she's
no prep.
My goodness.
And poor girl, I found out actually during the taping because I sat outside and one of her colleagues was there. And I said, I kind of feel bad. They're grilling this girl and woman. And I said, she hasn't had been there for long, right? And she's like, they're like, no, she started like 3 months ago. And then I felt really bad because it was like this woman who had stepped up to the plate to take on sex crimes in the DA's office, which is probably one of the hardest jobs. It gets the cases are awful, resources are limited. It is all you all the time. And she said as she was wrapping up, I'm going to take another look at her case. I'm going to reopen it. I'm going to go through all the evidence, all the facts all over again. And when I walk out of this room, I'm going to connect with her and we're going to take another look at it. And that meant the world because she didn't know me. She didn't know the story. She didn't really sign up to be asked about it. I'm sure she thought she was just going to be asked about how she handles cases in general. And so we became we became familiar with each other. I don't want to say friends at this point because I was really skeptical. And she said, I'm going to go through everything and then I want to meet with you in my office. And so I did. She said, I know you don't want to hear this, but I listened to your tape and I don't have any hard evidence of you like saying no or stop or really fighting about it. And I was like, yeah, have you ever been raped? And she just
Right.
looked at me and I was like, yeah, you just, you know, I just like tried to live through it. Like that's all I could do. Which, like, as an aside, women respond. I don't shouldn't lump it into women, but I'm going to. Women in general respond very differently to sexual assault. Like there are some women who, I mean, I'm just putting it out there, who have had an orgasm in an active rape.
Right. And that's
Like
still a rape.
it's still a rape. Like a rape is a rape is a rape. I don't know how much more clear to make that. But she didn't get it quite yet that I was like serious about figuring this out. And so I said I want to hear the tape. And she said, I don't think you want to do this. And I said, nope, I'm going to do it. I want to hear it. So she put me in a room by myself and then let me listen to it. It was the worst, however long it was. I don't even know. It's like a blackout of time for me. And I said, you can very clearly hear the the whole vibe of this recording change based on what I kind of came to. And she said, you and I can hear that, but if I put you on a stand with other men and women, they may not hear the same thing. And I had to be it is the worst part of my job, but I have to be honest with you, I'm not going to put you on a stand when I don't think we can win the case. And I said, okay, well, I can't sue him civilly, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And she kind of looked at me and she said, well, I guess you could change the law. And I like bucked up and I was like, great. I'm going to go do that and then I'll come back. And she was like, wait, really? And I was like, no. I used to work in government relations. I know exactly how to pass a law. I know exactly how to find a lobbyist. Like, thank you. I'm going to go change the law on suing someone in civil court. And she was like, I fully support you. Whatever you need, I'm here. And so we became friends and I really trusted her. She was a great supporter, but that's exactly what I did. Like I left that day and I looked at my friend that works at the sexual assault center and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to change the law. And she said, well, you might have to wait until next session. And I said, that's fine, but come January 1st, like we're going to do this. And she said, absolutely. And so new year of 24, I looked her in the face and I said, so how are we doing this thing? And she said, well, we have a lobbyist. We're going to write your law. And what are you thinking? And I said, well, I want to extend the statute of limitations for which you can sue your offender in civil court for sexual assault. And I said, we only have 1 year, but what do our sister cities have? What's normal? What's average? It's sad that Tennessee had the shortest amount of time in all of the states that touch Tennessee.
That's
Like
well, and a 1 year.
1 year.
I mean, just to comprehend what happened, you're losing time according to that statute. And to just to get your shit together, like mentally, that you
Oh,
even
there was a couple of things. I didn't know you could do criminal and civil at the same time. That never entered my mind. If I was doing a criminal trial and they had decided to pursue criminal charges, there's no way in hell my body, my mental capacity, my emotional stability could have handled doing two things at once.
yeah.
No way. 1 year is not enough time. It's not enough time. It's not enough time to heal, even if they don't press criminal charges in your, in your year of healing. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Like 1 year from the assault, not even 1 year from where you started the pressing charges. 1 year
Yeah.
from April.
Yep.
Uh, that's not enough time.
It's not. Surrounding states had like 10 years, 5 years. Um, yeah, it's some states have none.
Oh, so it's just open?
Yeah,
Or
I think there was, I want to say there was like one who didn't have a statute. Because,
wow.
there's not a statute of limitations on the criminal side.
Right. So why would there shouldn't be,
Yeah, you're right.
really?
There shouldn't be. Yeah. So she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, quite frankly, I want it to be 10 years. Realistically, I want to ask for 5."
Yeah.
And she said, "I think 5's pushing it, if I'm honest. Just knowing the legislature, she's been up there. They tried to pass it before a couple years ago with a different story, and it
What is
failed.
their reason to say no? Just out of curiosity. Like why would why what
I
would
don't
be
know.
the valid reason to say no other than, well, we need to look out for our buddies?
Yeah, great question.
Hmm. Okay.
So I said, yeah, I want to ask for 5 years. And so we settled on asking for 3 to 5 years. It's 5 years if you file a police report at the time of the assault. It is 3 years if you never filed a report. So that process was wild. Uh,
I'm
we,
sure.
I'm not really intimidated by much, if anything, really. Uh, that's just not how I was raised. And I remember telling my parents, like, I'm going to go do this and it's going to have my name all over it and I'm going to be all over the news. And I just need you to, like, it's happening. So however you need to process that, go find your therapist, your pastor in your church, like, whatever you need to do, buckle up.
This is happening.
And I remember my mom going, of course you would. Like, in a good way. Like,
I
of
love
course you're
that
going to do it.
response. So, yes.
Yeah, because it's so funny. When I was little, this is what she says that. When I was little and I was in preschool, I used to get in trouble all the time in preschool. And my mom would come to the preschool to pick me up after work, and her first stop was the principal's office because that's usually where I would end up. And I remember my mom telling me the story when I was like in high school and then again in college. And, you know, before all of this happened, I remember asking her again, and she said, well, I remember you, like, I think I slapped a kid. I do not condone violence. I'm not saying that, but I had like pinched or slapped a kid, and when the principal asked me why I did it, I said, "Well, she needed it." And she was like, "Try." She was a friend of the family. She was like, trying not to laugh at me, and she looked at my mom and she said, "To be quite honest, she did need it. Like, Danielle is the bully's bully. Like, if she sees somebody picking on somebody else, she's gonna go take care of it."
Like the
Like, she just,
vigilante.
yes, exactly. She was like, she's trying to stand up for what's right, but the way she's trying to handle it is not correct, right? And she said, "But don't ever put out her fire, ever." And my mom just kind of laughed and she was like, "I won't." And so my mom in this moment is like, "This is why I never put out your fire. Like, like, this is what you're meant to go do out of this situation." And I was like, "Mom, it's not even like this isn't going to be retroactive. I'm not going to be able to sue this man civilly after all of this, but I'll refuse to let any victim ever feel that helpless ever again. Ever. It's not about me, it's about healing. And that's a really hard thing to do, like, imagine if this was a family member or your spouse. And then it can be someone you've never met before, like it was for me. But we all deserve to heal. And so, we marched up the hill and met with all the Republican attorneys on the civil committee, and that was fun.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I had one guy tell me that I should have been armed. Still a House representative, in case any of you were wondering. He still sits up there. Yeah, he said, I wish you would have been armed. And I said, so let's talk about that. I was like knocked out, blackout drunk, like inebriated, really. Like, whether he put something in my drink has always been a question. I don't know, but like, how would you have thought that I, who is like unconscious for a moment, goes to where my gun is safely stored in my home, gets it out, and then uses it while intoxicated?
Because that's against the law, too.
Sure. Also, I live in a townhouse, so that could go through either wall and hit somebody else. And I was like, you know what? I do own a gun, actually, and it's safely stored. And I would love to know how you would get to your gun with a 350-pound man on your back. And I mean, he didn't want to think about that. That was just like, mind-boggling to him. And I said, you know what? I got rid of that gun. And I don't own a gun anymore. I don't want to own a gun ever again for different reasons. But there was no getting to that gun that night. And he said, well, man of 3 daughters, by the way. Three daughters.
So are they just carrying every minute of their lives?
Oh, I'm sure in grade school, because like they're not grown.
Right. But you never know.
Right. Like, I bet one's in elementary school, one's in middle, and one's in high school.
Way to put it back on the victim, by the way.
Oh, no, get ready. So I question him about the gun, and he goes, well, I think this is why we should teach abstinence in school.
What?
Yeah.
Does that have to do with anything?
No, my friend from the Sexual Assault Center, Lorraine, she goes, I don't know. I feel like we should be talking about consent in schools. And he didn't like that either.
Not raping? But I mean, can that be something?
Anything. And I just looked at him and I said, I really appreciate your time today. And I really hope that you'll support this bill. And he said, you got my full support. I said, okay, thanks. Mm-hmm. I went to another guy who, I don't think he looked at me the whole time. I don't think he really heard what was happening. He was certainly thinking about something else in his head when I was sitting in front of him. I had another one tell me that I asked for too much time, that I should start with 2 years. And then I was getting ready to go into one of the last meetings with one of the Republican attorneys. And I had everybody that I was with like stop me and say, I just want to prepare you to go into this room. He will not be kind to you. He will probably question whether you're telling the truth, and he will say something terrible to your face. And this is one of the reasons we're doing this year with you, is because we know you can handle it. But I'm just telling you, it's going to happen. Which, like, just okay.
Don't tell me no.
Yeah, I was like, don't tip me with a good time. So we get in there and we sit down, and he's like, our lobbyist, Heather, tells him kind of what we're trying to do. And I said, I'd just like to share my story with you. And I mean, the minute I sat down, he was like all like, just googly-eyed and ready to hear my story and listening to every word I had to say. And at the very end, I was like waiting for it, sort of like bracing for impact. And he said, I really want you to do your homework. I want you to think about a couple of things. He said, when you're presenting this to people who don't believe you, I want you to bring up the fact that if a neighbor's tree falls in your yard and messes up your house, that is property damage that has a statute of like 6 or 10 years, or he threw out this larger number than one. He said, when someone doesn't perform a contract and you want to sue them for breach of contract, I think you have 6 years to do that. And he started rattling off all of these things. And he said, but your uterus to the state right now is only giving you 1 year. He said, I think you need to put that into perspective for other people as you're telling your story. And I think everyone kind of like sat back a little bit because we anticipated this person coming at us with so much like speculation and, playing the blame game. Like we all kind of were prepared for that. And he opened up a whole new web of defense.
I
And
have
he was like,
goosebumps right now. Like this, I was not
yeah.
expecting you to say that.
And I said, I really appreciate you giving us that information. And he said, yeah, I think it's going to be really valuable. I think we use that in every single like news clip, in every piece, everything we told the story about that, we mentioned, we weaved it in some way. We get through subcommittee, committee on both sides. We go to the House floor, and there was 2 Republican attorneys who, one put their head down on their desk and the other left the room and didn't vote that day. And the one that left the room to take a phone call, because I confronted him, I made it all the way down the stairs right after the vote. As he was walking back in, I said, you missed your vote. He said, oh, I got a phone call. I just had to take it. And I said, I hope you really think about that for a long time. And I hope to God your daughters never go through something like this. And it was the one that said, I wish you were armed. And the man that put his head down on the desk that day and just didn't vote was the man that gave me my defense for the entire story.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so confused.
To me, I walk away from that and I think he really is probably trying to do the right thing in his life. But he is clearly trusted or has been paid by someone who won't let him think for himself. And that's the very dangerous part of politics. And it was very obvious to me.
And
Because,
the real part of politics.
yeah. I mean, really, I remember looking at him and he just put his head down like this and just hung his head at his desk until the vote was over, and then he picked his head back up. And I've never talked to him since. It's not worth it. I don't agree with his politics that he votes for. I wish, he's running for Congress right now, and I hope he loses. But, it made me go, wow. Like, this is real life. These are real lives. And you're telling us the good stuff, and you're voting the other way.
Yeah. And these are the people that are in power. The ones who listen to you how many times did you have to tell your story over and over and over again for this?
I can't count.
And then he just puts his head down.
Yeah. I think there was like one other member of the house that just wasn't there that day. So total there were 3. But I remember thinking, I expected this from one of you, but I didn't expect this from both of you. And the guy that said I should have been armed. His reason, like we did some backpedaling in our debrief, and it turns out that he didn't believe me when I mentioned and didn't mention it to anybody else, but I guess in our conversation we were talking about how the police had responded to coming to my house and whatnot, and I mentioned that the condom was still in my trash can, and for him that signaled like, well, it was obviously consensual because this man used a condom and then felt safe enough to throw it in your trash can. Lost cause. Lost cause. I'm never going to change his mind. No one is ever going to change his mind. There is nothing that I can do. I have to accept that. I don't have to like it, but I have to accept that. God forbid his daughters or his wife ever finds himself in this situation, because he will not believe them. And he will sweep it under the rug. I have no doubt. No doubt.
That's horrifying.
Mm-hmm. Because 1 in 3 women are assaulted. And I think that number has changed to 1 in 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of the reason I changed the title of my podcast, because the numbers are getting worse.
Mm-hmm. So, good news is...
Oh, yeah, you're leaving us hanging here, Danielle.
Sorry. Good news is we passed Danielle's law on April 4th of 2024, and the governor signed it into effect on April 8th of 2024. It went into immediate effect, and now survivors have 3 to 5 years in civil court. I think my next mission in all of this is, how do we let victims know?
Yeah.
So when this happens, when they go for their rape kit, they don't go for a rape kit. But maybe they need some victim resources, or their local health clinic, they go to like get tested for STDs or whatever. How do they know about this change in the law? Who's responsible from the government to tell the victim services, or what is it, the Office of Criminal Justice, OJC, I don't know, OCJP or something like that, I don't know, that partner with all of the victim resource organizations across the state? How do they tell everyone about all of these updates every year?
To be honest, I wouldn't have even thought that there would have been a statute of limitations on this. Like, I would have not thought, even with the extension, I would not have thought. And I bet that would be used against a victim too, of, well, you waited this long anyway, so it must not have been that big of a deal. Or what are you trying to gain out of it now by coming forward? Just all the whatever. But it should be something, it should be in clinics. It should be like your OBGYN. They should have this information up, your primary care providers, emergency rooms, Planned Parenthood offices, any kind of offices like that are providing any kind of like gynecological or even just annual care.
Yeah. Healthcare in general. I think in therapist's office, in in nurses' clinics, in the schools, like, I mean, that would never happen because, like, God forbid we teach our children.
No, we're teaching abstinence. We're teaching abstinence. We're not teaching about anything else. and carrying guns.
No, I mean, I have lived in this state almost my whole life. And I used to be really, 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 really proud to be here. And the older I get, the more that changes. And trust me, I've had plenty of people say, well, if you don't like it here, you can move. I'm like, I could, or we could do the right things and like help protect victims. And
well, like, right. I mean, why is that the answer? Well,
I saw this clip one time on Instagram, and it was this woman explaining, um, I've been taught my whole life, carry mace, don't walk to your car by yourself, take a self-defense class, um, walk with your keys in between your hands on the way to your car at night. All of these things about how to protect myself from assault, knowing it's going to happen. We are taught that at some point in our life, with all of these self-defense tactics, that we will be assaulted. So we're preparing our whole lives for that. We are taught to prepare for it. But no one's saying don't rape. No one is saying don't attack someone walking to their car at night. No one is saying women are scared to be in places with men at night when they don't know you. So do the right thing. Like, why are we being conditioned and prepared for all of these terrible things, and then we're not asking the abusers not to do it?
The accountability is placed on the wrong side.
Every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every
that's
time.
Disgusting. I still can't believe. I mean, I got goosebumps thinking of the freaking tree falling on somebody's house, and you have 6 years?
Yeah, I
or
mean,
whatever crazy number it is.
Yeah. Don't quote me on any of that. I'm sure there's going to be like some fact checkers out there that are going to tell me I was wrong.
Be like, I waited 7 years and the statute was actually 6, and Danielle said.
Yeah. No, don't come for me. I'm just saying the statutes are longer in those situations than they are for a woman's body. For a victim's body.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's scary. You know, I like I said, I was married. I have a stepdaughter who is now, you know, in about a month she'll be 23, and I think about her every single day. I don't talk to her as much as I used to, and that's out of respect for their family now. But I think about her every day, and I'm scared for her every day. You know, I don't want her to ever be in this situation ever, and there's nothing I can do about it. And that is the most helpless, normal parental feeling in the world, to feel like you can't do anything when your kids aren't in your house, you know? They grow up and they have to live their own lives.
Right.
But like I not a day goes by that I don't think about her well-being.
My daughter is only 9, and I will, when we get in the car, I was teaching my boys too, but you get in the car, you lock the car immediately. As soon as the doors close, lock the car. And they're like, why? Like, there are bad people. I have one of those bar things that you can put under your doorknob to the house. And my kids are like, what is this for? And I said, I'm a woman. I'm the adult in this house. So I'm not just responsible for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm also responsible for them. And I have no idea what's out there. And we're not paranoid. I mean, I guess we're paranoid, but we're not.
I don't even think it's paranoid. I think it's just we're trying to protect ourselves, right? We're just
It's not this fake, over embellished fear that we have. This is legitimate things that actually happen. You're a real person. I'm a real person. Shitty things happen to us. And that's the reality. People who are listening to this, shitty things have happened to them. Mm-hmm. And that's the reality. So, I mean, you changed a law. You changed a law, but there are so many laws, and look at what you had to get through to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I've done some speaking engagements, and this is the truth, but I kind of joke that, I'm a massive Olivia Benson fan from Law and Order SVU, and I'm not making this up. When I was in that 36-hour sway of do I report this, do I not, I ended up laughing about it in the moment because I was like, gosh, like Olivia Benson would be so mad at me if I didn't report what happened and if I didn't try to stand up for myself. And, as silly as that sounds, like, what a gift that we have watched Olivia Benson on our screens for 27 seasons, and her impact has trickled into the lives of the people that have watched the show. Like,
Well, in the
that's a
same
gift.
respect, what a gift that we have people like you who didn't take no for an answer, didn't take, oh, well, that's what I have to deal with. And you did this because you know it's going to happen over and over and over again. And you know that there are people who aren't going to have the same resources. I mean, thank God the first friend you spoke to had the right responses. Thank God your parents had the right responses. So many times we know that people don't have those, and you face those responses too, the negative ones, but
Oh, yeah.
the people who were that you really, really needed to have the support, they were there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's honestly, Danielle, it's people like you that are making such a difference. And I have goosebumps. I can't believe like I'm talking to you because I'm so in awe of like, oh, I'll go change a fucking law.
I hate the attention. I hate I received an award earlier this year for this work, and it's like I don't really want it. You know what I mean? It's like you could talk about somebody else. Um, and I really got it. I wasn't gonna say this on here, but I really got to tell you something. I'm sitting in my bedroom right now
Mm.
as I'm telling my story about what has happened in this room, and it's really powerful. Like, it feels really good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it looks nothing like it did then, because I think about like 3 months after, one of my good friends says, I think it's time to redecorate your bedroom. And I said, I mean, that's exactly what has to happen. And so it's completely different for a reason. And it did totally change the trauma that I felt when I walked into this room. But, sitting in here today, looking around as I'm telling the story, um, like the most fucked up story. I'm sitting in the place where it happened, but the word survivor there's a reason for that. Like, is my life perfect these days? No. Do I trust men? No. Do I want love and do I want to get married and have babies? Without a doubt. I wish for all of those things. I've had some very healthy relationships since this. But what a full circle moment for me to know that I'm healed in this space telling the story.
That I have, again, chills. I've had chills through that whole thing, but that is probably one of the most kick-ass things I think
Yeah.
that I could hear right now.
Yeah, I was, just I was thinking about this earlier, like, where am I going to do this in my house? And I thought, where do I feel most safe? And it's the juxtaposition of what has happened versus what does happen in this room is completely different. This is a repurposed, repaired, reimagined space that I feel safe in, and that's quite frankly the metaphor that I live my life with. I am a reimagined, redesigned person for a more positive life, you know?
And
That's
you're
all we can
taking
hope
us
for.
along with you. I mean, that's what's so cool about it too, is that you, because of what you've done, you get to bring people into that world too.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
I think the one thing that I continuously think about is, am I doing enough? And I think that's probably just my personality in general. I'm a huge empathizer, and um, and I really put people before me. That's my like entire personality. Do I get space? Do I get alone time for myself? And do I take care of me? Not always, but I will protect my pack. That is for sure. Um, but it's my purpose, and I have no doubt about that. And so I keep thinking, what's my next project? What am I going to work on next? But I think between traveling and telling, I told my story at the TBI one day, and one of their agents said the best thing you could ever do is travel the country, visiting police academies, telling them about how they should approach a situation like this, how they should treat it as a crime scene and not as a incident response.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, all day long. I'll do that all day long. I mean, I got to pay my bills somehow, but like all day long, I would do that. All day long, I would, try to fight the good fight in athletics and professional sports of people of power. I mean, my gosh. Um, if I could get Olivia Benson to sponsor this tour,
Listen, okay, so if anyone's listening and they have a connection to Olivia Benson, let's go.
I'm like, Mariska, I really need you to be my best friend and bankroller of all my projects.
You'll go on tour together.
Listen, that's like a dream come true. If I ever met her, I don't know that I could speak. And I'm not, like, I used to work in the music business, so I laugh that like celebrities aren't cool to me because they're just real people. And but I don't know what I would do. That and Barack Obama, I think I would just like uh, stumble over my words. But yeah, I that is the goal. I'm like, I'm gonna meet her one day, and we're gonna talk about all the good work we've done.
Maybe, yeah. Somebody forward this episode to her. I don't know who. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to tag her a lot when this comes out.
Yes, for sure. Okay. Well, if people want to see what you're up to, or anything like that, do you have any links that you'd like to share?
Come find me on Instagram. It's really the only place I exist on the internet other than LinkedIn. But my Instagram is just at underscore Danielle Pyle. Just at underscore my whole name, my whole being. Uh, I love talking to people. I When my story came out, I had a lot of people message me about their experiences, and I think that's the beauty of being a survivor, is holding space for others as they share their experience. And yeah, or if you know Mariska Hargitay and you want to drop me a line, just come find me. Let's be friends.
We will track you down. Okay. Um, I know I've taken a lot of your time. So I guess in closing, do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement that you would like to leave?
If you're a survivor, you matter. Your words matter, your life matters, your justice, your healing, it all matters. If you've been fortunate enough to not be on that journey and you are an advocate, a supporter of us, of this terrible crime, keep being an advocate. If you're a man and you want to support women, talk to other men about how they support victims, how they treat women. And if you're none of those, I just hope you find healing in your own heart.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Danielle, for joining me today, and thank you, warriors, for listening. You can find the links Danielle was referring to, as well as her Beyond the Statistics profile, in the show notes. I will be back next week with another episode for you. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. To learn more, explore episode resources, browse the collections, or register as a guest, visit beyondthestatisticspodcast.com. If today's episode meant something to you, please share it with someone who may need it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow Beyond the Statistics on social media. Beyond the Statistics is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.